I'm told we're live, and we are just about hitting 2:30. I'll give it a minute for people to pop in, and then we'll get going. In the meantime, the Value UX conference is all donation-based. So I just want to let everyone know that all the donations for this particular talk will go directly to Battersea Cats and Dogs. This is a charity that I support personally, so wanted to say thank you to anyone who decides to donate today. And you'll all go to a wonderful cause. So thank you very much. All right, I think we'll get going. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today. I am excited, a little bit nervous to share this absolutely brand new talk with everyone today. As I briefly just mentioned, all donations for this talk will go to this particular charity. This is one that I support. So yeah, thank you very much if you choose to donate. And in case you haven't had the pleasure of meeting the wonderful myself, my name is Johnny. I am originally from Denmark, but I'm currently based in London, and I work at the fintech company called Wise in the design and research operations team. Now, today I'd like to talk to you about something I've been thinking about for a very, very long time. And actually, I wanted to congratulate myself before getting started for this masterful display of macro level ADHD of 10 years of thinking and 10 days of working all the way up until the finish line. So yeah, let's see how this goes. So the idea I'm here to share today, I call it workload as a mindset. So first, to answer the question, why have you been thinking about this for so long, and why am I speaking about it today? I would like to hopefully carefully invite you into my mind to explore a distant but very vivid memory of mine. So feel free to close your eyes as I'm going to transport you into a small design studio in San Francisco. It's late at night and I'm sitting alone in the studio, and I'm surrounded by empty drinks, takeaway boxes. The studio is dark, it's quiet, but I'm lit up by the lights of my laptop. I am probably looking quite pale with heavy bags under my eyes. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, my phone rings. And it breaks the silence in the studio. The phone rings and it rings again. And for some odd reason, I decide to quickly stand up and answer the phone. But before I could say anything, a loud and aggressive voice from the other end of the phone cut through the air like a knife. Now at this point, my body is starting to feel cold. And as I collapse back into my chair, I'm desperately holding back tears of helplessness. And I'm slowly leaning forward to put my arms and my head on my desk. Now, if your eyes were closed, I'd like to welcome you back into the present moment. This was me 13 years ago. I was overworked, overwhelmed, and at the brink of burnout. Now, until today, not that many people know about this story. And in fact, as I was working on this presentation just last week, I was talking to my wife about it, and she said, I have absolutely no memory of this. Now, perhaps blissfully, she'd forgotten about all of this, or I was extremely good at hiding my feelings. Now, I was probably working about 12-hour days at minimum, and I don't think there was any sight of my workload getting any better. And I think, unfortunately, most people I know in design will have some experience of feeling overwhelmed And maybe some of you can relate to some, but hopefully not all of the stuff that I just shared with you. So one of the problems we face in design with all of this unmanageable workload is that we tend to believe that it's only caused by others and that we don't have any control. So the way we cope with that and deal with it is that we convince ourselves just to work harder so that the design doesn't suffer. So we keep increasing our hours just so we can get back on top of things. Almost as if we believe that the workload isn't the problem, but that we believe that we are the problem that needs to be solved. So someone in my team asked me the other day, and I thought I'd put it in here because it was quite suited. He asked, how do you know if you failed? And I told him you failed if you haven't learned anything from your experience. So now, all these years later, when I look back on my experience all those years ago, I thankfully no longer see the utter failure that I felt like, and I'd convinced myself that I was in that moment. But I see a very important lesson. And this lesson, I believe, have helped me be more successful in the work that I've done ever since. And I'd like to share that lesson with you today. The lesson begins with a simple truth. You can't control what other people do. Now, this is nothing new, and unfortunately, this is not something I came up with. I wish I did. It's quite profound. This truth goes back to ancient times, and it's one of the core teachings of Stoic philosophy, which I'm very curious about. You can't control what other people do, but you can control how you respond to them. So in the time after the event or the memory I just took you through, I couldn't help to think how I could have done anything differently. Like, how did I end up in that mess? And then also I kept thinking, was the workload problem really caused by others, or had I somehow done this to myself? Now, the truth was that I was not in control of the people that kept adding to my never-ending inbox of requests, questions, and changes, demands, and at that point, even threats. I also was not in control of how my manager showed up that night on the phone directly from New York. I don't know what time it must have been there. But also, more importantly, I wasn't in control of how my manager didn't show up any sooner. Or was I? But I was in control of how I responded, and my response was that I believed that the workload wasn't the problem, but I was the problem. I just had to get back on top of things. Now imagine my manager had visibility of what I was working on. He could easily stepped in sooner. He probably should have stepped in sooner. I was clearly struggling. But he didn't know I was struggling because I didn't ask for help. And I didn't ask for help because I believed the workload wasn't the problem, I was the problem. So sometimes when we need answers to the big questions in life, I don't think we need to look much further than to some of the children's books out there. And I thought about this one last week when I was preparing this presentation. So here it is. What is the bravest thing you've ever said? Asked the boy. Help, said the horse. That was my best horse impression. So while I failed utterly at the time to provide any visibility to my manager, I also wasn't brave enough to admit that I needed help. And as if that wasn't enough, I'd also lost sight of what was important. So my priority at the time was simply to get back on top of things, as if I'd fallen behind. Mainly so I could prove to myself, but my manager as well, that I wasn't the problem. Now it turns out the volume of work wasn't the real problem here. At least it wasn't my most important problem. My most important problem at that time was that I had lost any clarity of what I was working towards. So here we are. No one knew what I was doing, myself included, and I seemed to have forgotten where I was going. Now imagine this quick scenario. You jump into your car and you start driving as fast as you possibly can. Now imagine that you're actually driving in heavy fog. And to add to that, you have no idea where you're going. Now this sounds insane, but that's kind of what I was doing. Although perhaps less dangerous to people in traffic, but maybe not so much to myself. So a lot of people would be familiar with this this little meme here. And it's funny because it's true. The question I have is, why is it considered normal? We've normalized not having control. So today, I don't believe we as designers or any other disciplines out there are the problem when it comes to the workload. I definitely believe that we can take control of our workload, and I think we can do that using a simple mindset of how we respond to the people around us. So for the past 10 or so years, I've used this mindset to take control of my own work, my priorities, my personal growth, and I also made it my mission to help people I work with do the same. And now I'm starting to take that mission a little bit more seriously and more broadly. And the mindset goes like this. Create visibility of what you're working on, with clarity of what you're working towards, and by doing this, you can take control of your workload. Let this sit for a few seconds, and then I'll unpack this a little bit more just to make it more practical. I'll share a few examples as well. Okay, so visibility. What do I mean by visibility? My first principle of visibility is to make your work known. So it's about having your activities, your priorities out in the open, not having any hidden agendas or secret priorities that no one knows about, because the best designers are visible. So I want to put a disclaimer in here because I don't want this to be confused with designers having to promote themselves within an organization and to be seen for higher chances of promotions and stuff like that. Now, in some low maturity design environments, like this might be your situation right now, but if that's the case, I want to make sure that you understand this is not the lesson, but you can probably benefit from this mindset as well. The best designers are visible in team plans, in project timelines, in planning meetings, and in strategic discussions. The visibility of your work and your priorities is better for your projects and your team, but also for your company and your clients. But I don't want you to be visible for them. I want you to be visible for you, because visibility makes you more reliable as a designer. It also makes you more trustworthy. This is a good one. It shows that you hold yourself accountable. But finally, and most importantly, it shows that you're taking control. Now, we know that we can't control what other people do, but by providing visibility of what you're working on, you have a much higher chance of being in control of how you respond to the people around you. So this right here, I believe, is the most important tool for creating visibility. And the reason for that is that this tool here is about you. This is called I don't know if it's called, I call it the weekly reflection journal. So I use this every single week with my lead here at Wise. My team also shares their weekly reflections with me, and we review all of that in our weekly one-to-one meetings. So this creates visibility across the board. There's no secret priorities or hidden agendas. And I'm just wondering if I'd had something like this 13 years ago with my manager, what kind of talk I would have been giving today. I don't know. Very different one. So the reflection journal is not meant to be a shared to-do list it's not about tracking tasks. It's about creating visibility of your reflections. And also importantly, visibility of what it is that you're learning. So in my experience, like the people that reflect on a regular basis, they have a tendency to learn more effectively, but also the people that learn, they tend to grow. And the journal is an opportunity for you to create visibility and take ownership of your personal growth. So that's all great, but visibility might look different depending on your context. So this tool is great for one-to-one relationships with your manager, but what if you need to create visibility with your team? What does that look like? So day-to-day work for design can be chaotic, messy, and it changes priorities, and ad hoc work sometimes gets us thrown off course. So if this is your context, then first remember the simple truth: you can't control what other people do. But you can control how you respond to the people around you. And then remember that the best designers are visible. Now, most teams, mature or not, will have some kind of system in place. Most companies will have systems in place. And some of that system will be in place to track the work that's happening. Now, this might be Jira or Monday, Airtable, or maybe just a spreadsheet, even some sticky notes on the wall. So my team at Wise, the ops team for design and research, we started with a simple spreadsheet. Is what we needed to get off the ground to create visibility. But over time, it's developed into something like this, or it's developed into exactly this. This is a Jira product discovery system, and we use it to track all the active and planned work for full visibility across the team. We've also started to explore some data points that can help us prioritize a little bit better. Actually, full visibility, this talk is in here, although it's hidden. And just to clarify, no, it's not the one that's labeled a thankless task. It's very enjoyable, but also a little bit stressful. And also finally, underneath the hidden areas, we have some of our objectives that's helping us with clarity, but I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, but that's all good. But what if my team don't actually have a system? Or perhaps even worse, what if my team have a system, but it's out of date because not everyone uses it? Not having a system is actually better than having a system that no one knows whether or not it's up to date or not. Because it simply provides confusion. But unfortunately, In many cases, this is the reality. And if this is your reality, what do? How do you create visibility? So I'll take you back to the first principle of visibility: make your work known. Now, if your team is not showing any signs of visibility, your response can be the opposite of that. And it's not about how you create that visibility, it's the fact that you do it. And you can do it for them, but it's essential that you do it for yourself. Now, teams that don't create cross-functional plans together, or if they simply ignore the plans and just wing it and rely on ad hoc requests just to do anything. Now, perhaps this team is, maybe the impact of this team is questionable, but if that impact can't be tracked, they can't be held accountable. And maybe that's exactly how they like it. On the other hand, if your team struggle with accountability, you can use this as an opportunity to lead by example and using this mindset. And if nothing else, just to own your personal growth. So at the heart of our wise design mission statement, we call this very thing light the path. So, well, you can hold yourself accountable by being more visible. You can also have and take an opportunity to stand up for more visibility for the people around you, because the best designers are visible. And you can control what other people do. And should all these things fall short, hopefully I would want you to be brave enough to ask for help. On that note, let's have a closer look at what I mean by clarity. How can you prioritize what you're working on if you don't know what you're working towards? It's a quote by some absolute legend. So simply put, visibility follows clarity. Now, Will spoke about this yesterday in his talk. Context matters. And the same is true for this. So in the same way that you can create visibility in different contexts with your manager, your team, maybe your client, clarity also comes in different contexts. Whoa, what's this thing? It's only the most important tool for creating visibility. Now, what would happen if you use visibility and clarity together? The reflection journal, this one, can help you strengthen your personal clarity. What are some of the growth areas that you're focused on? And what are some of the areas of improvements that you and your manager have been discussing to get you to the next level? Now, this simple little tool here, I feel like embodies the essence of what I mean by visibility and clarity. And the reason I bring it up over and over is because this is about you. It is about you taking control. But again, what if you need clarity with your team? The most things we do at work and the most things we're working towards are shared with others. We don't get to dictate our own objectives when it comes to teamwork. So maybe the next milestone is what helps you prioritize what you're working on. And if it is, how are you going to respond to the people around you? Is the milestone clear enough for you? Does the team have clarity on the milestone? Do you use this milestone to prioritize what you're working on? Now, if you can't answer yes to these questions, you need more clarity. Now, maybe it's not a milestone, maybe it's something bigger. Maybe you're working towards a product launch. Now, do you and your team and your stakeholders have clarity? And importantly, do you have the same context? So when teams don't keep their tools up to date, you have a visibility problem. But when different groups of people don't have the same context, you have a clarity problem. So for my team again at WISE, our design and research operations team, we currently have two different contexts of clarity that we focus on. At the beginning of this year, my team and I came together for the first time across our two disciplines in design and research operations. And we did a joint workshop, and we set out to do a workshop to establish a set of strategic objectives. Now, this was going to help us build clarity across our two disciplines on what it is that we're all working towards. Now, my team faced a problem. Maybe my face is a problem too. I don't know. You tell me. Hit the chat. Our objectives didn't bring us the high-level context of clarity that we were looking for. Now, one of the core purposes of us getting together as a team was to create the objectives together as a team. Now, even though those objectives didn't turn out the way we had hoped, we're now using this initial batch of work that we did to define better ones. So even though we didn't succeed, I don't see this as a failure because we learned something, and therefore it was simply progress. And while we continue to make progress on those, and this is active work and it sits in our tracker, we decided to make sure that we're also bringing visibility and clarity into each and every initiative that we work on. So my team used this template. We call it the one-pager. It's getting a bit long, so we need to find a way to iterate and trim that down so that it remains a one-pager. But yeah, if you're not familiar with design and research operations work, it can be difficult to do sometimes. So mainly because the work that we do is to deliver change. And this may be changing the environment that design happens in or how people work. Sorry, get some water. And not everyone loves change as much as ops people do. So over the course of the year, our small but mighty team, we have been practicing the art and science of bringing clarity through problem statements. So as you can see here, the problem statement, there's a framework that we also use. I'm happy to share that framework if anyone is interested. Just hit me up on LinkedIn or in the chat. But yeah, this clarity of the problem and the positive impact that my team and I can deliver for our design organization, for our teams, for our stakeholders, it makes it possible for us to actually prioritize this work and get it done. Because if you can't deliver work that people care about, you can't deliver any work at all. Not in the ops world, at least. So now I just have one final question. Why are we here right now? We're here right now because too many designers, they struggle with their workload. And the problem we face is that we believe it's caused by others and we don't have any control over it. And then we respond to this problem as we believe the workload isn't the problem, but we believe that we are the problem. Now, for the past decade, I've used this mindset to take control of my work, my priorities, my personal goals, and the people I work with. And I believe that this can help you as well. Because the best designers, they create visibility of what they're working on, and they have clarity of what they're working towards. And finally, the best designers, they take control of their workload. And now I'm only left with this beautiful pair. These are my cats, Pringles and Doris. It's a little reminder that any donations for this talk are going to go straight to the Battersea Cats and Dogs charity. And it's on the Value UX website, but there's a QR code here as well. That's it. Thank you so much. All right. I don't know if there's any questions. I see Ben has adopted a cat. That's wonderful. Thanks, Ben. All right, so, I see.
Hey, Johnny.
I see Del. Hey.
Hey, I think we have one question at the end from Ben, actually. I can put that on screen.
Yes,
if you go
we
to the
can.
end of the chat.
I can try to read it out from the chat as well. So how do you suggest internal teams address workload with significant departmental cuts? Now expectations to do more with less and also learn new ways of working with AI, for example. So departmental cuts. I would say everything I've just said apply. I don't think they would do anything different. So the truth, you can't control what other people do. So the fact that there's cuts, and with those cuts, there's potentially no change in expectations of what you deliver. So therefore, less people have to do more work. Again, all you can do is bring visibility to that. You can help your team set boundaries. You can help your team understand the work that they can deliver and then co-manage expectations by potentially deliver some of the impact that's expected, but not all, and then explain why. Like time is finite, and for some reason we understand this mostly in private life, but when it comes to work, time seems to just be hanging around and is available in endless amounts. But if time is finite, work also has to be finite. And I think we have to match the two. And yeah, you can do it with some of these tools, like tracking tools, scoping tools. But most importantly, I think the thing that I'm talking about is this is personal, this is a mindset. So understanding what you're capable of and then communicating that and setting boundaries. Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit of a ramble. See, Vanessa is knocking. She wants to talk about stakeholders and relationships, which is also something I'm very passionate about. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yes, thank you, everyone. We'll end the talk here. And as you already saw, Vanessa is lined up. So thank you, Johnny. Really appreciate all this material. Is actually really beneficial for me too. So thank you. And thank you, everybody. We'll close the session here. And then, yeah, you can head back to the conference space. And the next talks will be starting at 4:15. Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.